Okay, Herc, while the U.S. was busy losing to Japan, and while Mexico was getting ready to win against Peru, but do so in pretty unimpressive fashion, you know what Canada was doing? They were chalking up a victory against the hosts of the upcoming World Cup, Qatar, 2-0 on Friday, which leads us to the question, is Canada actually CONCACAF's best hope for the upcoming World Cup?
Best hope?
Best hope.
Oh, man. Probably not because of their group, but then maybe so because of their group. Belgium, Croatia, Morocco. I like Canada's odds. I know that sounds crazy, but this Belgium team hasn't quite really impressed us, and they're getting a little long in the tooth, a little older, if you will. Canada, with the way they press, with the way they play, with the way they go in transition, could definitely cause a lot of teams problems. Croatia beat another team. And then Morocco, absolutely. You saw what they did or didn't do against the U.S. men's national team a few months ago. So I don't know if they're the best chance, but they're definitely the national team that best feels about themselves or good about themselves heading into this World Cup, and it's not even a starter. Costa Rica, a little long in the tooth, a lot of questions with their head coach. And then you look at Mexico. Yeah, they won against Peru, but that was the first win in 6 against South American opposition. Only one shot on goal. Not necessarily lighting it up on the offensive third or generating chances in the U.S. men's national team. According to Greg Berhalter, 5 starters are out right now, and this team, no plan B, literally will give you possession if you press them a little. So, yeah, without a doubt, Canada is a team that should feel best about their situation.
All right, so in the game against Qatar, Jonathan David scores a goal, and he covered up Nike while doing the celebration. Now, why would he do that? Well, we talked about it on this show, Herc. Nike didn't give Canada new jerseys for the World Cup, even though Canada's in the World Cup for the first time since 1986. To me, it speaks to a little bit of the chip on the shoulder that this team has. I like that. And then I add what you're talking about, which is that feel-good vibe that maybe the U.S. doesn't quite have, that we know Mexico for sure doesn't have. Just how important is that chip, and just how important is that vibe ahead of a World Cup? Do you really need to be feeling good about where you are as a national team program to have success at a World Cup? Because I feel like there are plenty of examples where that hasn't been the case.
Yeah, if we look at teams like Canada, the U.S., Mexico, Costa Rica, on paper versus the world powers, you're not going to be the more talented team. So you have to make up with certain other variables. This Canadian team right now, against Nike, if you will, with the jerseys, against their own federation, against the disrespect and the joy and jubilation of finally getting to the World Cup, first time since 1986, they will be overcome with emotion. I really feel they're in this we have everything to gain and nothing to lose type of scenario. Their group, on paper, they shouldn't get out of. But I just mentioned the teams like Belgium and Croatia and how much older they are and how they can use that to their advantage. Morocco, you saw what they brought against the U.S. men's national team. I think Canada can fare well against them. Honestly, if I'm Canada, I'm feeling very good about my situation, and it doesn't matter what you're wearing. You're in the World Cup. I think the majority of U.S. men's national team fans will take the Canadian jerseys, those, versus the U.S. men's national team jerseys today.
Herc, you know what does matter is goals. And I always think that we can sometimes get way in the weeds and try to get very complex about this game. But if you have guys who can finish the opportunities that you're going to get, and let's be honest, not just Canada, but most of the teams around CONCACAF are going to be the underdogs in most of the games that they play in the World Cup, then you're going to have a chance to advance. And I think Canada pretty clearly, especially when you look at the number 9s, has not even just the best finishers, but by far the best finishers, and 2 of them. It's not just Jonathan David, it's also Kyle Larin. Compare that, Herc, to every other team we talk about. U.S., gaping hole at the number 9. Who's it going to be? Mexico, huge problem at the number 9. Who's it going to be? Canada doesn't have that problem. They have not just one answer, Herc. They have 2 answers. That should be your big source of confidence if you're a Canadian fan.
Yeah, and not so much the answers, because you can go with players who are hot hands. It's the questions. They've got less questions being asked of their team. Mexico, lots of questions, from the head coach to the number 9. The U.S. men's national team, lots of questions. Head coach, number 9, and now the system. You look at Costa Rica, head coach, a big one. Keylor Navas not even starting anymore for PSG. But Canada seems to be the team that you're asking less questions about. And I repeat, an us versus the world mentality with an us everything to win and little to lose scenario.
All right, it'll be exciting World Cup as we've got the United States, Mexico, Costa Rica, and Canada all set to represent CONCACAF in Qatar.